So any of you that have ever done any kind of work around the house have probably noticed by now that if you have a wrench, the longer the handle, the easier it is to turn the bolt or screw or whatever it is you're turning with the wrench. And now we know enough physics to know why. So let's imagine that we have a bolt and we have some wrench that we're using to turn it. Okay, so if we call R1 the distance that the force is being applied by the wrench. So in other words, we're turning the wrench so that there's a force F1 being applied at this point. Then we see that if we say, again, the wrench is going to be turning around that same point, and let's say our hand is applying a force F2 at a distance R2, then well, so we know that the torque is equal to R cross F, which is RF sine theta, and in this case, we'll actually redefine our R1 to be this distance now, which is the original R1 sine theta. So in other words, the torque at 1 is R1 F1, and the torque at 2 is R2 F2. Okay? And also remember, we said that torque is also equal to the moment of inertia times alpha. Okay? So how is this going to come in handy? Well, this is going to come in handy to us now because we know that that alpha is equal to the second derivative of theta with respect to t squared, right? Or in other words, a change in omega with respect to time, right? And so we know that if this wrench, if we're turning it at some rate omega, if we're turning it faster, right? If we're increasing the rate that it's turning at, then that's going to be that's going to be our rate of change alpha. So in other words, alpha is the same at both points. And because alpha is the same at both points, it means the torque is going to be the same at both points. And so that allows us to see something interesting. So since the torque is the same, it means that the torque at 1 is equal to the torque at 2. So R1 F1 is equal to R2 F2. So in other words, the force that we're applying on the bolt is equal to the distance that we're applying the force, or the length of the handle, divided by the size of the bolt times the force that we're applying. So you see that the bigger we make R2, if we just keep making this bigger and bigger, it's applying a greater and greater force to the bolt. So as we keep increasing the length of the handle, it makes it easier and easier to turn the bolt. And so that's how a wrench works.